All right, so sitting here at the loading bench this evening, and I kind of had an idea, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I should record, you know, me loading and just kind of share some random thoughts or do some talking. And it's got me thinking that maybe I should do I don't know, once a month or something, bench talk type of a video. So that's what I'm going to do here this evening. And tonight, since it's my first time thinking about this and doing it, and since I'm loading some 6 ARC for a match that's coming up this coming Saturday, the July 27th, I figured, you know what, I should talk a little bit more about the cartridge itself. Because there's a lot of videos out there that just really piss me off of people with a lot bigger channels than what I will ever have that bash on or criticize this cartridge. And when you watch them actually shoot it, if they actually take the round or the cartridge and a rifle to the range and shoot it, which most of them don't. They just give you box ammunition and graphs and charts and stuff. They all criticize the heck out of it and tell you, yeah, well, the 243 is better at this or that or blah, blah, blah. 243 is a fine cartridge. Just like in my first Why the 6 ARC cartridge, I had stated that the 224 Valkyrie is a fine cartridge, but it didn't bridge the gap in a gas gun that was needed. And I figure I'll talk about that and a couple other things. So let's, I guess, talk specifically about why the 6 ARC. How did it come about? If you haven't watched, and there's plenty of videos, Hornady's got 4 years worth of videos that go back to 2020. Problem is they started introducing and they promoted and they released the cartridge in 2020, and then COVID happened and you couldn't find the cartridge. They weren't making it. They said they were. They weren't. It wasn't being produced. With all the lockdowns, it wasn't a popular cartridge. Why would you manufacture it when there's very little, firearm manufacturer support? Nobody has Sammied up bolt guns or AR barrels in it for the most part at that point. So they spent all of their energy or put all their energy into making cartridges that were in high in demand at that time. So that's the first downfall of the 6 ARC, and it's part of why it got a bad rap, in my opinion, from the onsetter initially, was the availability of the actual parent cartridge. And since it was a proprietary cartridge, the only place you could buy brass or anything for it was Hornady. So, but you move forward from that. You get through the first year and a half of COVID, and I had bought dies. Actually, I bought a set of Hornady dies, and then I bought a set of Forester dies before I'd ever even had a case or a barrel in it, like a lot of people do, I guess. But once I had the dies and once cases were available, or it wasn't even cases, I guess, once I found, and I believe it was Reed's Sporting Goods had it available, I ordered a case of the ammunition, 108 ELD-M, through them. And once that arrived, I ordered a barrel for my Savage 110, and I swapped the barrel from 6.5 Creedmoor to this, played around with it, and absolutely fell in love. So, that's kind of a long story, but the short version is I fell in love with the cartridge. I fell in love with it from a perspective of not a gas gun and what it could do in a gas gun configuration. I fell in love with it out of a 26-inch 1-7 heavy barrel bolt gun, and it was promising. It was more promising than any other cartridges I had fired up to that point, as far as, and that was kind of limited, I guess. It was 308 and 6.5 Creedmoor, but the big thing for me, and this is the part that really pushed me over the edge was, a lot of folks don't know this. People that know me up close and personal in the state that I shoot with know that in 2022, the 4th of July weekend, I got shingles, and it affected the upper right quadrant of my scalp and forehead, and it got in my right dominant shooting eye. And it drastically changed my vision in my shooting eye, which drastically changed my ability to spot my impacts even with a 6.5 Creedmoor 308 downrange. And more so because of, not so much because I should say of the bullet weight difference, but because of the recoil impulse of those rifles or those chamberings. I couldn't get my eye back in the glass quick enough. First thing I did was I switched up from a $1,000 scope to a $3,000 scope, hoping that that would fix it, and it helped, but it didn't cure the real problem. And then I decided, you know what, I'm going to go all in on this ARC cartridge that I've been following for 2 years that is supposed to recoil like a 223, and was hoping that I would be able to follow the trace of the bullet to the target or see my impacts with that lighter, recoil impulse. And sure as shit, that was the solution. It fixed everything. Over the course of, from the time I had the shingles in the eye to the time I did that was 6 months. I fought with the shingles in the eye and multiple doctors for another year before I got that under control. And the difference between me giving up on PRS style shooting and not was this chambering or this cartridge. Honest to God. If I would have had to have shot anything else that had a lighter recoil but didn't deliver at least the splash of a 108, I was going to walk away from it all. And I'm glad I didn't. So that's part of it for me. I don't know if I kind of touched on this, but the rationale for the cartridge, which again, it's out there. You can find it on your own. But the reason that the cartridge exists is because it bridged a DoD request for manufacturers to produce something that bridged the battle space gap of 550 yards to 900 yards that the armed forces over the last 20 years in the war on terror have had to deal with, which is to say, there were plenty of times where there are firing positions or bases or action being taken, and the tally or whomever were sitting out there at 600 yards just laughing their butts off because they knew they were outside the effective range of a 5.56 and the guys on the ground that were carrying that in an AR-15 platform. And they've got glass, they can see, the guys got AR-15s, sit back here, we're good. So that was part of the reason for the DoD wanting something that could bridge 6 to 1,000 yards but still fit in the AR-15 platform. And it's one of the parts of it that you won't hear anybody talk about. You won't hear them talk about it on Hornady. You won't hear them talk about it on, wherever. But that was the real rationale for it. It was because they wanted the enemy to be able to sit there and think that, oh, hey, look, they just got whatever. And then, oh, hey, look, Mr. 6mm super, efficient BC reaches out and touches someone and make them rethink their war fighting. The other part of it is obviously the weight reduction. An AR-10 platform with a 308, the rifle itself weighs about 30% heavier, or it's about 30% heavier. And the ammunition is about the same, 30% difference in a 308 compared to a 6 ARC. So the weight savings on the frontline service member that's got to carry that is huge And if nothing else, it's a morale issue when you got to carry a whole bunch of heavy shit that doesn't work well for you when you need it. Why have it? So let me think. Is there anything else I'm missing when I talk about the 6 ARC initially? Things that none of these big time channels want to talk about. And you know what? Talking about big time channels, there is a big time channel that did a really respectful, in my opinion, video about a week or so ago, and that's Grantham. I loved his video on the 6 ARC, but I mean, he puts a different twist on stuff, but it was a proper representation of what the cartridge is meant to do, and it wasn't a representation of, well, you know, it's better at this or that from a varmint, a coyote, a mule deer, a pronghorn cartridge. That's not what the cartridge was designed for. Can it do those things? Absolutely it can. But that's not why I got into the cartridge, and it's not why a lot of other people got into the cartridge. Talking too much almost screwed up and put a little bit too much powder in this case. So, let me see. What am I forgetting? I gotta be forgetting something. I'm down to my last 1 or 2 cases here, so I should probably wrap this up. Let's see. I don't know. I guess that's probably it. I think I've talked enough here. Hopefully this is something that, you know, you all find interesting. If you don't, feel free to just, you know, skip over it if you've even made it this far, which probably most of you haven't. But if you have, give it a like, tag it, share it, whatever you want to do. I don't normally make those comments, but I'm thinking that maybe this is a new way to open up some venues about talking about something else within the shooting world without looking at my dirty mug and watching me, you know, actually shoot targets. So anyway, till then, y'all have a great day and hope to see you at the range.